So I think it's a safe bet that once midnight hits tonight, Twitter's going to be pretty real, because it's free agency, man. I'm ready for the Woj bombs. I'm ready to be like, why the hell would they ever sign that guy? And I'm also ready to question just how much money NBA free agents are about to make, with how big of a leap the salary cap is making. And of course, I am not in the head of any of these players as they make their decision of who to go to, but I'd like to look at some of the top free agents and just give my opinion on some of the potential teams that have been connected to them and where they could end up going. So let's start off with Kevin Durant, because he's the top guy, of course. From a money standpoint, what would be best for Durant is to sign a 1 year in OKC and then reevaluate things next season, because he makes more money, and plus OKC, it's not like they're in a situation where he can't win a championship right now. That being said, some of the teams connected to him, one of which is the Golden State Warriors. I mean, if Durant signs with the Warriors, that would be one of the craziest things to happen in the history of the NBA, and I actually think, given how high the salary cap is jumping, we could see a trend of star players choosing to sign with like one of the top 4 teams in the NBA or whatever. And I think if Durant signed with Golden State, that would kind of be what other stars would have to do to just compete, and the NBA would basically become a 4-team league, which, well, you could argue it is anyway, but a part of me doesn't want Durant to sign with Golden State, although another part of me would be pretty damn amazed if he did. Same thing goes for San Antonio. Besides that, Miami as well as Boston. I mean, I'm a Celtics fan. I would love for Durant to sign, of course, but given the situation the guy's already in, it's not like he's far away from a championship. Hell, I mean, I'll be honest, going into next season, OKC is kind of my favorite to win the title right now anyway. So, I guess that's my opinion on that. Also, the Los Angeles Clippers are connected to Durant. Even if they gut their entire roster besides Blake, CP3, and DeAndre, the money gets so close, it really is going to depend on how high the salary cap jumps. I don't even know if it's worth committing to that for the Clippers. I mean, I don't know. I think that's too much of a risk. I think the Clippers would be better suited trying to round out their roster, but if they want to go for Durant, they can. Move on to the next name, Hassan Whiteside. The 2 teams connected with him are the Miami Heat, which is no surprise, and also the Dallas Mavericks, who always seem to be a free agent destination. I mean, when we look at the Mavericks front court, if they signed Whiteside, it would be Dirk and then Whiteside. Now, here's the thing. Whiteside, he's a very good shot blocker and rim protector. Still not the best pick-and-roll defender or help defender. Still gets lost sometimes in where to go. And combined with the fact that Dirk has basically become a stone wall when it comes to defense, I don't know how great that could really be. I mean, the rim protection would be fine, but everything else, I don't know. From an offensive standpoint, Whiteside is very good at finishing around the rim as well as grabbing offensive rebounds, and Dirk is going to be able to shoot until he dies. So from an offensive standpoint, I think that's very intriguing for Dallas, but Whiteside still needs to improve on some areas defensively. The next name, DeMar DeRozan, who is connected to the Miami Heat, which that's kind of redundant seeing as they already have Dwayne Wade, another shooting guard who is effective at driving inside but isn't really that great of a three-point shooter. The Dallas Mavericks, once again, I don't know, can DeRozan play the 3 next to Wesley Matthews, who plays the 2? That's kind of interesting. The Philadelphia 76ers, why the hell would he ever sign there? Los Angeles Lakers, I mean, I like Jordan Clarkson and D'Angelo Russell in the backcourt. I don't really think I would disrupt that with DeMar DeRozan. I'm not the biggest fan of DeRozan. He was very good in the regular season. He had stage fright in the playoffs. He picks up his dribble too much. He takes too many 10-foot fadeaways. I would like DeRozan to improve on that three-point shot, but given how far he is into his NBA career at this point, I don't know if it's going to happen. And among all the teams that he's connected to, I think Toronto makes the most sense, honestly. Now moving on to Mike Conley. Once again, the Dallas Mavericks are in the discussion here, as we would expect. I mean, they're a free agent spot. Conley would fit in pretty damn well with Dallas. He'd fit in with almost anybody who needs a point guard, really. I mean, he's a two-way player. He shoots well from outside. He's a smart player. And I also think, given Memphis's slower tempo, I feel like his stats are not as good as they could be. You give him more of a responsibility on someone like Dallas, I think we could see Conley's numbers jump up a bit. But also, there is that belief that he's just going to stay in Memphis because the culture there is so strong, and the Grizzlies don't seem too concerned about actually losing him, it's not like the Dallas Mavericks are significantly better than the Grizzlies right now. Both of them are kinda to be honest. Personally, I would love to see Mike Conley go to the Rockets, but according to some Twitter profile that apparently has some credentials, it says Mike Conley is not meeting with Houston, so I guess that goes out the window. And now we got Al Horford, probably my favorite player in the NBA because smart center, can shoot from mid, can hit threes, finishes well at the rim, has some post-up abilities, and is also a very good defensive player. Not the best rebounder in the world, and that is a genuine criticism, but I feel like Horford has more positives than negatives, although being that he just hit 30 years old, there is a little bit of concern there. The teams connected to him, for one, the Oklahoma City Thunder, which, if Horford goes to OKC and he's their kind of power forward / center with Steven Adams, I think it's pretty much GG for the rest of the NBA at that point, if I'm going to be honest with you. The Boston Celtics are trying to get Al Horford. I think he would fit in beautifully with what Boston does. I think Brad Stevens having a center like Al Horford could be nothing but good things. The Houston Rockets, I feel like Al Horford is the type of center they need. I also think he could play off of James Harden very well because, as I mentioned, Horford's a good shooter. Now, since we're talking about centers, we can also mention Dwight Howard, and the two teams that have a meeting with him are the Atlanta Hawks and the Boston Celtics. Now, if Atlanta feels like Al Horford is just gone, then I guess Dwight Howard is a good enough replacement. I mean, I like Horford more, but it's not like Dwight is no scrub. People think Dwight Howard sucks at this point. The dude still averages a double-double. He's a very good rebounder. He finishes well around the rim, decent pick-and-roll player, and he's not bad on defense. He's not the defensive whiz that he once was, but he's still pretty decent. The question with Howard is, of course, is he a team killer? Because he's been on 3 different situations now where there was a lot of controversy surrounding him and his relationship with his teammates. And I just mentioned how I feel about how he would be on the Hawks. As for the Celtics, I mean, the Celtics need someone like Dwight Howard who can make an impact on both sides of the floor and be a big rebounder and rim protector. But again, all those emotional things I just mentioned, I don't know how I would feel about Dwight coming to my Celtics, honestly. Next up, we have Chandler Parsons, who's one of the more efficient players in the NBA, always around 40% from 3 and usually over 45% from the field as well. He's a pretty versatile player, not necessarily amazing at one thing, but pretty damn good at almost everything. If Parsons is your number 3 guy, you're in really good shape. And I think, for one, the Lakers are interested in him. I don't know if I would do that. I'd probably just start Brandon Ingram at the 3 and just roll with that young core. But the Memphis Grizzlies are actually interested in Parsons. That's interesting because Zach Randolph might be over the hill. I don't think Gasol is. I think if Parsons could give Memphis some shooting, but also someone who could play small ball 4 if they really want to transform that roster, that could be interesting. I mean, if Memphis re-signs Conley, has Parsons at the 4 or the 3, acquires another two-way perimeter player, Gasol's still pretty good, there might be a little bit of a revitalization in Memphis if they could do that. Or they could just stick to their whole, we're going to roll with 2 big men and then nobody who can shoot. I don't know. And then finally, one of my favorite players in the NBA, Nicolas Batum, can put the ball on the floor, he's a decent playmaker, can grab rebounds, can hit from outside, defends multiple positions. His only problem are those weird, falling down mid-range jumpers he takes. He's actually been attached to the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, I would just roll with the young core of the Lakers. I mean, I think Brandon Ingram is your starting 3, and I don't think that's really much to think about, to be honest. Besides that, Batum has also been attached to the Dallas Mavericks once again. I mean, they need a 3 because apparently Parsons is leaving. I like Nicolas Batum, so... Now, as for a couple other decent players that I really can't find a lot of news on, Ryan Anderson, who... the only team really with him is the Wizards at the moment. I mean, he's a good shooter. I don't know if he can start because of his deficiencies on defense and his athleticism, but if you need a stretch 4, he's your guy. Marvin Williams, who I like, was a nice two-way player for the Hornets last season, stretched the floor, can switch multiple times on defense. He's really meant to be a Golden State Warrior, to be honest. And then finally, Kent Bazemore. He's not really the perfect 3-and-D player, but he is that sort of guy, so if you're looking for a decent enough wing after all the other ones are gone, Bazemore's going to get a nice paycheck.